guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nclex and I'm really glad to have everybody here with me today. So just like the title suggests, today I'll be giving you all the gist about my Nclex exam, how my experience went, how I studied, and pretty much what you need to know hopefully to pass yours. So before we get right into today's video, at this point in time I have to ask shamelessly that you hit the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and during the course of this video if you hear baby babbles, that's my baby, he's saying hi. Okay, so without talking much more, let's get right into it. Quick background, I finished my LPM program, or rather I took my LPM finals in the first week of May, and then a couple of days later, specifically May 11th, I had my baby, and then May 15th we had our LPN graduation, which I actually managed to go for. I'm yet to upload that video, but definitely stay tuned, I'm gonna put that up. So now the reason I'm giving you this background is it's gonna give you an idea of how long I studied for. But I want to say that if you're watching this, please, if you have the time, put in the time to study for your Nclex, because nothing beats like being well prepared rather than feeling rushed. So I did, like I said before, my graduation was actually on May 15th, and then I scheduled my Nclex PN for June 8th. So if you're actually calculating this or looking at your calendar, this is less than a month. So 15th to 8th, if I'm not mistaken, gives you about 3 weeks to study. I'm not gonna come on here and be like I studied for 8 hours every day up to my exams. Hell no, I didn't do that. So for me, if I was able to get in like 3 hours, 4 hours every day, I was lucky, because it was really tough with a newborn and then a toddler who's less than 2 years old. So what I did, how I studied, is what I'm here to share with you guys, because believe it or not, if I'm able to do it in less than 3 weeks with 2 babies, then you can definitely do it. So now let's get down to the nitty-gritty. So the first thing first I did was I made sure to understand the way I learn best. It's really important that you know this. I know that if you're watching this, you've possibly seen many other videos about how I pass my Nclex, what I use, what not, and all that. One thing I want to say is it's important you know what works for you and not follow the crowd. Alright, so for me, I used basically just 2 resources, I want to say. And I know you've heard this 1,000 times, and I want to say yes, it's absolutely true. You can study for the Nclex and actually pass the Nclex with just the Uworld. So I used the Uworld, and then I watched Nclex video, basically his prioritization and delegation video, and I watched the entire 2 hours the first time. Then I revisited his video a second time to kind of freshen up just before my exam date. I don't know if I've said this before, but if you're not new here, you know I always say my school is very heavy on ATI, and if you use ATI just like I did, you would know that ATI has like some prep resources for Nclex, and typically it's called the board vital. So I tried to actually use the board vitals alone before I paid for the Uworld, because I was trying to be cheap and not spend a couple of $100 on the Uworld, but it just didn't work for me. It was just like all over the place. It was kind of hard, and I basically didn't believe it was the right tool for me. This all boils down to knowing what works for you, like I said before, because honestly I know a couple of classmates or friends of mine who use just the board vitals and they did absolutely fantastic on their Nclex. Today though, I'm here to say I didn't use that. What I used was the Uworld and the Nclex video. I said before, I started my actual preparation sometime around May 20th, I want to believe, because to be honest, I didn't plan to take my exams on my Nclex on June 8th. and I only ended up taking it because the date I wanted was not available. And I said before, for me, I needed to put in my scores for my program because I already got the conditional acceptance for the RN program, and passing the Nclex PN was a condition I had to meet in order to be eligible to remain in the program. So my thought process at the time was, okay, I need to get this done ASAP, just in case I don't pass it on the first attempt. I have enough time before the deadline of August 1st to retake and hopefully pass, so I don't get kicked out of the program. All right, I'm not gonna come on here and pretend like, oh no, I felt very prepared and I like had all my things done and planned and whatnot, and that's the reason I took it. No. So like I said, when I started studying with the Uworld, I came out with an average of 45%, and then gradually it went up to 50s, and then in no time I clocked the 60s. But at the end of the day, I want to say the most important thing, and one thing which I did take away from the whole experience, is the fact that not pay so much attention to your scores. Instead, put in the effort needed to actually know the content and the material. So one thing about Uworld, I have to say, they laid things out in a very simple format. I was hesitant initially, mostly because of how much it cost. But at the end of the day, like I said, if the money is a big deal, then you probably want to start making plans ahead of time, making preparation and saving up. Right, so the plan I actually purchased was the 60-day plan, which came with 1,200 questions and one self-assessment. And honestly, in my opinion, I think that's like very much okay. And if you're watching this and you're an RN student, I'm sorry for the discrepancy or the confusion, because I did notice that it's a little bit different for the RN Nclex versus the PN Nclex package on Uworld. So why I said this is good enough is 60 days is enough time, in all honesty, for you to prepare for your exams, particularly if you're fresh out of school and if you have like everything still like fresh in your memory. The reason I say this is I know sometimes you want to be like, I have to prepare and study really hard, but then the longer you wait, the more still, if you want to call it that, like the content and the materials and what you were taught in school becomes. Because immediately you're done with school, you still have all these things fresh in your memory. And let's be honest, like you've been in school for 2 years, you've been in school for a year, and everything you've been studying for and you've been preparing for has been like leading up to the Nclex, you know. So I feel like you don't need like 3-5 months to study. I'm referring to those who are fresh graduates particularly, to be ready for Nclex. So like I said, I pretty much studied within 2 weeks, and this was only during the night time when my babies were asleep. So what I ended up doing was every day I studied, say from 10 to to 1 a.m. and then I slept, and then the next day, so down to the exam itself. So my exam was actually scheduled for 8 a.m. and if you watch me usually, you would know I live in Delaware. I couldn't get a center in Delaware, and the closest center I did get was in Philadelphia, which was give or take about an hour drive from me. So I had to leave like really super early, and I got there, did the whole check-in process. I have to tell you all, like they check you like the TSA, no joke. They pat you down, they make you raise your collar. You are not allowed to carry anything but your ID inside, and even your cell phone. If you have your cell phone on you, they ask you to put it in a cellophane or in a plastic bag that they provide and lock it up in a locker, which you have the key. So my advice to you would be carry as small as you can. There is no point having so much baggage or so much like stuff on you that you're going to end up, you know, putting in the locker or living in the car. So if you can, just maybe take your ID, and if you have to have your phone on you, then your phone, your car keys and whatnot, and be ready to be searched. I literally had to take my jacket off because she kept on saying, raise your collar up, raise your hand up, raise your cuff up, and I'm like, I could take this off, it might be easier to save both of us the stress. All right, so that's as much as I can remember. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys to give you a better understanding of what it looked like. And honestly, I was satisfied with how things were at the point in time when I went in to take my exam. On arrival, they give you this form or this document or packet where you read the rules, the regulation, what's to be expected and whatnot. And after that, they call you in and then they ask for your name. They confirm it. You have to present an ID. And I have to stress that if you're watching this, try as much as possible to make sure that your name on your ID and on your application or registration match to the T. You don't want to get into any like trouble. You don't want to get any stress more than you have to. But I'm saying this because in my center I did see somebody who was not allowed to proceed because of that. So you want to bear that in mind. And also after the whole like verification process, you go down to the security, if you want to call it that, for them to pat you down, to check you and whatnot, and then you go into the hall itself. So now to my question itself, I did get about 85 questions, right? And it was my decision not to take a break in between, but bear in mind that you can actually take scheduled breaks if you want to. When it's time for the break, it's just gonna pop up on your screen, and then if you want to take the break, you click yes. If you don't want to take the break, you click continue. So I didn't take the break, and I finished my exams, I want to say in about 2 hours. I finished my exams in about 2 hours. I had 85 questions. 40% of my questions were select all that apply. I had no idea if I was doing it right, if I was doing it wrong, but believe it or not, when I came out of the exam, I felt like numb and indifferent. I'm like, oh my goodness, what just happened in there? I actually made a video immediately I came out from the exam hall. I'm gonna leave the link right here. Basically, you could see how exhausted I was because I didn't know what to expect. So like I said, I had 85 questions, and at 85 questions a screen popped up and it says the next set of questions are going to be research questions. Research question was really weird, and at that point in time, to be honest, I wasn't even sure if it counted towards my grade, so I didn't want to take any chance. I gave it my all, but later on I did find out that it was just research and it doesn't affect your grade. So I got about with the research question and my actual questions, everything came up to 104 questions. And I want to say that for my questions itself, I did get at least 30 select all that apply. So that's pretty much it. Then now I'm going to share my screen with you guys to give you a better understanding of what the Uworld looked like. And honestly, I was satisfied with how things were at the point in time when I went in to take my exam. So right now, as you can see, I'm sharing my screen like I said I would. So this is my home page, if you want to call it that. So like I told you guys, I purchased the second plan, which had about 1200 questions. And from this home page, you can see that I used pretty much everything but 294, so 294 questions. That's what I had left. And down here you can see that the questions are like divided into different subjects and all. So typically I usually studied in the tutor mode, not the timed, because you all know I can do so well with that because of kids and then many interruptions. So with the tutor mode, right, it gives you basically it gives you the answer as you go, if I'm not mistaken. So for me, basically I always like pick like the different subject areas, because honestly I do that because I feel like that's how the Nclex is set up, and it's not like one subject at a time. All right. And to the best of my knowledge, I think the max number of questions allowed is 75. So at the end of the day, you pick your subject areas you want to be tested on, and then you go down here and choose how many questions you want in each test, and then it's going to generate your test for you. All right. So now I'm going to take you all to the performance to see exactly what I meant. So under the performance, it has the overall, it has the report, and then there's the graphs. So this basically is the overall. So it says I got 51% correct of all the questions I answered. And then I used 76% of my question bank before I think before I went in to take my test. So right here it tells me I answered 928 questions and I had 294 left. So as you can see, it's not so much, like it's not a whole lot of questions, but at the end of the day, I think what's most important is that you actually know the content. So it scores my percentile rank as 70th, as 70, and then my median score, it says it's the 49th, which is pretty good, because like right here, as you can see, most people, this was a very peak for like a whole lot of people. So me being on the 70th percentile rank, according to Uworld, it's like pretty good. And then we're gonna go to the graphs now. So looking at this, I actually started studying May 26th and my exams was on June 8th. So it simply tells you that I barely studied for 2 weeks, and not even 3 weeks as I earlier said. So this is how it's looking. The very first day, which was this day, I remember the first time, May 26th, I scored 48%. Like I told you all, I started out in the 40s. And then the next day, I came up to 56. And pretty much it went up, down, and all that. And I think the highest which I did score was June 7th, which was 75%. So yeah, so that's it guys. I just wanted to share with you all my screen.